Guys, and welcome back to today's video. So I've got with me one of my friends that I've met through, I think, Twitter. Is Jonathan, aka Seabolt Speaks. He has a YouTube channel and a Twitter, which I'll leave in the description box below. So Jonathan, do you want to do a brief introduction to yourself and let me know if I've missed anything apart from your YouTube and Twitter? If you've got like an
Yeah,
IG or
sure.
anything like that.
I do have an Instagram. It's the same thing. Seabolt Speaks. I am a professional language dabbler, I will say. Not overly proficient at anything, but mildly okay in a whole lot of different things. I love languages, obviously, and I can't seem to stick to anything, but we're trying to get that changed.
Okay. So one of the reasons why I wanted to get Jonathan on the channel basically is because one, I think he's getting more interested in immersion slash input based learning, and he's looking at taking up Mandarin Chinese.
Mhm.
And I think he said one of the goals he wanted by the end of 2020 was to try and have a conversation with me in Chinese. So hopefully both of us can have good enough Chinese at the end of the year to have a decent
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
That's what is coming on. So I wanted to talk a bit about his plans for learning Mandarin Chinese and what he's been doing so far, what he's planning on doing, what his other goals are for 2020, and how that fits into the bigger picture.
yeah.
So, quickly then? What's your general plan for 2020, just overall, not for Chinese, just in terms of all your languages?
All
And then you can
languages,
deal
yes.
where Chinese fits into that.
Yeah, sure. So overall, well, my main goal of 2020 is to, the way that I've described it is I want to um, kind of perfect my Mandarin or just make my Mandarin stronger. Underneath that, it's more of a you need to learn a lot more because all you can say is I can speak Chinese a little bit, and if that's the only sentence you can really say with confidence, you got a lot more to learn. So my overall
Yeah.
goal of 2020 is a main focus in Mandarin. For the first couple of months of the year, on top of Mandarin, I'm going to be dabbling in Afrikaans because of also to prerequisite this. I am married. It has nothing to do. I had somebody ask me if I'm learning Afrikaans, or they said that that was a great way to try to hit on Lindy. Lindy Botez. Every time I say her name, I have to say it both ways, and then I don't know how to say it. But I am learning it because of her influence, because I think that she is a very genuine person, and just seeing how she is in her videos, it has made me very interested in South African culture, and I just want to learn more. And that's another one of my goals is to have just a very brief conversation with her. And part of the reason I set that as a goal, same thing with you as a goal with having a conversation, is because I think saying I want to be able to converse with this person a little bit, I think that's way more obtainable of a goal than to say I want to be a B1 or I want to be a B2. I think that saying I want to be conversational is way more measurable than taking a test. Um, so for the first couple months, Afrikaans, again, Chinese as well. And then I plan on taking a trip to Italy with my wife. So I'm waiting until I book the flight and like, can we get the tickets before I start learning Italian? Like, I should probably be doing it now just so I'm better. But the reason I've put it off is because I think Italian is a beautiful language, but in terms of things that I'm interested in, not so much.
Mm.
In terms of media, I mean, I love pizza, but who doesn't? But like, that's a little bit, you know, that that's a little bit different than me being like, man, I can't wait to watch, this movie or whatever. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
overly
it's like,
interested in
can't
in
wait
the
to eat
media.
a pizza.
Yeah.
Saves what you can
So
do yeah.
yeah, and then towards the end of the year, I do want to dabble in another Slavic language, specifically Polish, because I do love Slavic languages. And then that's about it. I may, um, I'm getting my passport in at the end of this month. And I may be taking. I have again, one of my best friends lives in Japan, and so I can get a flight for about $600, and that gets me to Japan, and then I don't have to pay for a hotel because he lives there. So I may or may not be going to Japan this year too. So, which if that's the case, then that changes everything because then I'm gonna have to try to learn some Japanese,
Yeah.
or a little bit. I can speak an okay amount of Japanese, but not enough to be able to make it. I don't think so. But that is the long version of the short version of my goals. Sometimes I'll go on a rant, so sorry, but that's it. Yeah. So That's where I'm at right now.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, this is you said if you're going to Japan, you wouldn't have to pay for a hotel. If
Hmm.
anyone's interested as well, I used a website called Couchsurfing before when I've used it in Hong Kong, China, and Macau, and you can stay with people on host for free on the website.
Whoa.
And the cool thing about that is I find it a great way to like find a group of native speakers to hang out with. So when I went to Guangdong in China, I ended up spending like the Mid Autumn Festival with a bunch of people from there, like hanging out and speaking Cantonese on some random island with like a barbecue and music and like lanterns, and it was a very cool experience. So I'd recommend
Cool.
couchsurfing if anyone's looking at traveling for free. But even
Yeah.
without the fact that it's free, I think it's cool just to meet locals. And then back to the other stuff you said. So yeah, I think it sounds like you've got a busy year. So I'm curious when
Yeah.
you said Mandarin's going to be your main focus throughout,
Hmm.
but you're going to be doing these other mini projects on the side, and I'm curious if how that breaks down in terms of time. So like
Sure.
for example, for me, when I'm learning a language seriously, I like to have at least an hour a day in the morning of like non-negotiable study time that I'd focus towards mostly listening and reading activities, whether it's going on link, whether it's with a textbook in the beginning or whatever.
Hmm.
And then anything I do on top of that's a bonus, like general immersion and stuff like that. So I was wondering what sort of, if you have any system in place to
Yeah.
stop you from just going all over the place too much,
Yeah. So basically any kind of Afrikaans study, for example, at the beginning of the year, is going to be when I get about 10 or 20 minutes. I'm not looking to spend a ton of time because while I think achieving some form of fluency would be cool, it's one of those languages that Afrikaans is doesn't have. I mean, it does have some media, but like especially in America, it's a little bit harder to get a hold of. Like I looked up Harry Potter in Afrikaans, and to get it shipped is like $110. Like, I mean, I'm
For the
sure there's
book,
PDFs. Yeah, I'm sure there's like
okay.
PDFs
You can
online,
get
but
like a
like,
like an ebook or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to see if there was a Kindle version, and I couldn't find anything. But um, so basically, it's going to be maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day, which is not enough time to achieve really anything. But Afrikaans is so similar to English that like for example, what is your name in Afrikaans is wat is your name. So like already, like
Just sounds like Arnold
it's
Schwarzenegger speaking English or
yeah.
something.
And there's some stuff that's different. Like good morning is goeiemorgen. So it's like it's not entirely the same, but it's similar enough to where I don't have to try and memorize that or do a flashcard. So I think I'll be able to pick up a lot. Um, but I'm not really going to be immersing in that language. I'm not going to be watching Afrikaans TV or anything like. I'm going to be learning Afrikaans the way that I learned Esperanto, which is basically through. I use an app because there's not a lot of resources for it. I use an app called Masterling,
Mm.
which is basically kind of like Duolingo, but maybe a little more effective in my opinion, just because it has native audio for everything. Versus Duolingo, you may get the text to speech voice or God only knows. I mean, Navajo doesn't even have audio uploaded,
Mm.
um, so I'm just going to be doing that, and then of course Chinese will take a main where I'll still try to at least get an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours in, and that's going to be with my immersion reading stuff like that, where it's going to be more focused because Esperanto I can speak a decent amount of, not a ton. I'm really really solid at listening. I went to an Esperanto conference and I was only there for a day, but everybody speaking I could understand, and that comes specifically from Duolingo. Of course there's not a lot of Esperanto media to immerse in, or at the time there wasn't, but so with Afrikaans, it's going to be in that same manner where it's just that kind of 10 minutes here, do some flashcard, well, or like a memorize course, or do the Master Ling course to where I'm just learning just a little bit, and then and then have a little bit of a break because I am a firm believer in giving your brain a little bit of a little
Mm.
bit of a break to kind of cool down and reset, and then jump into something else, and then probably I don't know, anything from 3 or 4 o'clock on, like after work, is going to be strict, Chinese immersion.
I think there's some research to support that. Like, there's the e-course called "Learning How to Learn" by Barbara Oakley. They did like
Mhm.
talked about the focus and diffuse mode and how you switch between actively trying to solve something and resting, and then your brain like puts all the stuff together in the background while you're not
Mhm.
actively thinking about it. So is sorry, that's off topic. Is Italian and was it Polish the same then? Just half an hour a day, and then
Yeah.
mostly focusing on Chinese.
Italian will definitely be that. Polish, I do have a lot of interest in Polish, like more so. Again, Afrikaans I'm learning because kind of like a giving back to the community. It's not an endangered language. It's growing because of South Africa growing, but it's one of those uh, it's a language that doesn't really get a lot of love, you know, kind of
Mm.
like if you ever watch Moses when he goes around and he'll speak to somebody in Urdu and they're like, "What the crap?" Like, you know, it's like one of those things. Granted, I don't know what the South African migration rate to America is. I don't know when I'd ever use it. But again, it's more for just like I really appreciate what Lindy has done for the language learning community, and it's kind of a giving back to her. Like I appreciate it, so I want to learn her language type of thing. Um, Polish, I do have a lot of. I have Slavic languages, even though I don't speak any. Are That's actually my favorite language tree.
You could read
Um,
the Witcher book series as well. If you
yeah,
look in
that's
Polish.
yeah, because they're originally Polish. Play the game in Polish and all that stuff. So the media is there. I'm not 100% sure about movies or anything, but um, I just love the sound of same reason I like the sound of German. Like I like languages. I just love how brutal it sounds, man. It sounds like such a devastating language, you know, like you could say the nicest thing and it sounds like you're telling someone you're going to rip their throat out. Like I think that's, you know, I really, really like,
Interesting thought.
and Polish is my favorite of the Slavic languages. I like Russian and Czech and stuff like that, but I really, really like Polish. I like the way it sounds.
So you're going to put in more time with that then than compared to
I'll
Italian
probably,
and Afrikaans?
yeah, I'll probably put in more time. Now, again, from where that's a side goal, if I'm not to a point in my Chinese that I'm comfortable with, and I don't mean conversational, I mean because that's look, I'm not an
It's starting
idiot.
to get your
You
foot
know,
in the door.
yeah. As I mentioned, you know, before we started recording, I'm not learning Chinese in a week. I'm not one of those guys. But yeah, if I see that I've not progressed as much as I think I should have, then that'll just be off like fully, and it'll be focused 100% on Chinese. But if my Chinese is getting to the point, Mandarin, I should say, you know, if it's to a solid level and I'm advancing, then I'll probably keep it up. But I would like to devote a decent amount of time to Polish because that's actually a language I would like to be conversational in.
Mm.
Granted, there's not a lot of Polish people around here, but I really like, you know, I like the language. So
Okay, cool. So going back then, so what have you been doing in Chinese so far, and what have you been using, and how much have you been kind of roughly doing per day?
yeah, as of right now, I'm just dabbling. I had to. With Christmas and stuff, you may not realize this, but apparently it eats away all your money, and so I
You
had
got
to
kids?
actually. Yeah, I have one kid. I have a kid. He just turned
It's
3,
all on
and what
presents.
where I get hit is his birthday is November 30th, and then Christmas is December 25th. So less than a month away, man. It just murders you. But so he just turned 3, so we did all that, and I had to put a bunch of money in that. So I actually had to cancel my Link subscription, which I'm going to renew. I just got paid, so I'm going to renew that. And I genuinely just read some stuff on that and try to listen. I try to find some YouTube video, you know, and again, I briefly mentioned this, like I am struggling to find some media, but I think it's just, I need to go out and look for it a little bit harder. Try to find some movies or YouTube channels that are in, in Mandarin Chinese. Because right now, really, about the only immersion I'm getting, and I need to change this, and I know that, is from watching, you know, a couple of YouTube channels where they speak Mandarin. And a lot of times it's a foreigner speaking Mandarin to people who are natives. So I don't even know if that's the best, but as of right now, you know, it'll be 10 or 20 minutes of video and I'll watch maybe 2 or 3 um, of that kind of thing. So
I think it's worth saying you're looking at standard Mandarin from, I guess, Beijing, or just standard Mandarin from mainland China. And in
mhm.
terms of YouTube, for obvious reasons, there's a limited amount of YouTube content available from mainland China. It's blocked in China without a VPN. So it makes
Right.
sense. Most of their content's on platforms like Bilibili or UK, I forgot the name. There's a few websites that it tends to be using a replacement of YouTube over there. I don't know how that works in terms of integration of being able to find CC subtitles and download them like you can with the American one. But I'm sure if you use the characters to search, you can find up a few things. Like I've was searching some stuff to do with like I was searching something to do with like cancer and medicine stuff, and because it's the same in simplified and traditional, I came up with like a channel that has loads of kind of TEDx talks similar to TEDx talks, but it was in Mandarin with simplified characters, and it sounded like a mainland accent. So there is stuff there. I just probably have to find a bit of time digging. So what have you been? So what have you been using so far? Then you said I think you mentioned Yo-Yo Chinese at some point. Maybe not just then, but before I've heard you mention it. I think. You've been using that.
Yeah, I have. I haven't used it in a little bit. Just because of I really like Link, and I know that we had briefly mentioned some of the problems with Link, especially in Asian languages, but I really do love that platform. Yo-Yo Chinese, I do like. I haven't used it I say that I haven't used it in a little while. It's been literally a couple of days. Like I just haven't jumped on there. But I do like their lessons because it's 4, 5, 6 minutes. I find her to be a fantastic teacher. I think the way that she lines stuff out is very, very clear. I know that people go back and forth on whether or not it's good, but even though she's a native Chinese speaker, she teaches it from an English standpoint, which makes it a little bit easier to understand.
Is that the majority of the video in English or the majority of the video in Chinese?
The majority. And that's the problem. So I wouldn't count it as immersion because she's explaining everything in English, and then she'll say the sentence a couple of times. But I would say there's probably I don't know what the ratio would be, but it's a majority English. Probably not as bad as like ChinesePod101.com or whatever, like where it's literally almost all English, or at least the experience I had with it was.
Even then, I think it's a case of knowing how to get the best out of certain resources. So like I haven't used Yo-Yo Chinese, but do they have like a dialogue section that you can listen to with like a transcript and stuff like that? So I imagine you could, say if it's a 6-minute video, listen to it once, to get kind of a rough idea for grammar and bits. Maybe if you want to for a supplement, and then go over and listen and read to the dialogue a few times, maybe even import the dialogue into Link and listen to it when you're, I don't know, walking somewhere or whatever, then I don't see how that would necessarily be a bad thing. And
she had on there, usually after every couple of lessons, there's a thing called Street Chinese, and it's it'll be her or some interviewer asking questions that you've literally just learned. Like it'll be like ni xihuan zhongzai, like do you like Chinese food or something, Sorry, my tones, I'm working on it, I know. I know that's
Same.
But
I think everyone is.
But so yeah, like I think that's right? Ni xihuan zhongzai. You like ma. I would have to put ma at the end of it, but
I don't know what she said.
Yeah. So it'll be that, and then they'll be like, yes, I like that, or no, I don't, which will be either Xihuan or Bo Xihuan or whatever. And so and it's usually 3 or 4 minutes, and you get multiple responses, and they're not. She doesn't tell it like it's like an actual interview, so it's natural native level speed. Because there's sometimes they say stuff, and I'm like, what? And I'll read the transcript, and I'm like, oh.
Sounds pretty cool.
So
it's
that
probably quite interesting as well, because you see like real people's opinions on stuff.
Yeah, and that's really, really beneficial. I try to listen to those more. Like I like the lessons because it teaches you the different words and that kind of stuff. But I love, I do like those street Chinese things a lot.
That sounds really cool. Sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that, but I should import that into Link, because then I could read it and do the whole Link process, because I don't need the video to see that, and because it's just simple questions like that.
I just want to quickly say, for anyone who's not familiar with Link, probably most of you are. It's a platform made by Steve Kaufman and his son, Mark, was it? Is his son?
Mm-hmm.
That basically built on reading and listening, so you can input whatever you want into it, audio and text. And then the good thing about it is there's integration between the website and the app. So you can read and listen to something on the app, on the website, read all the words you don't know. And then because you've imported the audio into Link, you've got download the app on your phone. You can really easily get the audio in here, and you can listen to it when you're walking to the shops or you're doing the dishes or something. You can just is to get the audio on your phone and listen to it, which is really, really good. And I really enjoyed their YouTube import feature, so you can import a video of YouTube and stuff like that. That's quite cool as well.
Of course, you have to find some good videos that have transcripts that aren't the auto generated, because I've ran into some pretty bad
generated ones.
Yeah.
Oh, great. And I just did if anyone's interested as well, I did a video not too recently of how to use YouTube to learn Chinese, and I'll leave that in the description. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have that on my to watch list.
Yeah.
Because that's something, we talked about before, is me looking for media and stuff, which I know you're learning Taiwan, but still anything that could point me in the right direction, I think would be super beneficial.
I'll go over some of the functionalities and hopefully cover something useful.
Oh, also a new thing with Link. I don't know if you saw this or not, but you can, which I use Playco. Like, I actually really like how I can look up a word in the dictionary and immediately add it to a flashcard set. And it's got the audio and everything. I love that. But you can export your links into a CSV file. I think you can actually export it as an Anki file as well, but you can export it as a CSV file, so you can then just import that into Anki.
Just wondering, can you choose to do phrases only and stuff?
I think so. Let me. You should be able to, because you can separate the links by link, because you can separate them by the phrases that you made. So I bet you can. Because that would be more useful. Let me see. Let me log in here.
Because I can imagine putting loads of single words in it. Just be here's a list of stuff that'll make terrible flashcards that I don't really want to use.
Yeah.
It should be the problem with is with the way Link works. It basically encourages you to look up every single word. So when you're reading something, if it's difficult, you can end up with making hundreds of links in one day, and then you get to the point when you've got thousands of these links that you're quote unquote your learning words, and then if you were to try and put them all into Anki, you wouldn't have enough time to rep it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
you can, when you click on phrases, you click on more actions, and there's export Anki file, export all links.
It's interesting to know. I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah. But again, if I come to I know that he's pretty big into just kind of let the words wash over you, or whatever terminology he uses. If it's a word that I think that I really need to pay attention to, I'll just add it to Playco. And if it's something like, for example, what is it? To go, which I know that word, but let's say if, to go is something that I would that's a word you use all the time. So if that was something I really wanted to hammer home, I would put that into Playco. But if it's a word like
Apple or something.
Yeah. Or what is apple? Shui guo, something like that? Pingguo. Okay, yeah. Yeah, shui guo is fruits. Yeah. Water. Okay. So I wouldn't put that in there. I would just kind of learn it as it came, because I don't really care if I know the word apple right off anyway for what I'm trying to learn. I'm not going to be going to a Chinese market buying mianbao or pingguo or any of that stuff right now. So but then some of the verbs or some of the nouns in particularly, I would definitely add to Playco that way. So I love Playco, man. I think that's one of the best purchases I've ever made. I wish every language had a specific app that was like Playco.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Playco is a dictionary app you can get for phone, and they've got a lot of really cool integrated features. So you can get a clipboard, you can copy stuff to your clipboard, you can read stuff in it and just tap on the words you don't know. And then at the top there's a little plus you can use. If you press the plus, you can turn it into a flashcard. You can also
with multiple readings.
You can also pull stuff off Google Docs and read stuff in Playco. You can do OCR recognition, so you can take a picture of a character and get it to scan the character what it is and tell you what the characters are. There's a ton of crazy stuff. There's a web browser in Playco if you pay for one of the features. There's a lot of pretty crazy. It's like a Swiss Army knife for learning Chinese. Yeah, it's really useful.
Man. And that's what I bought. I originally got it for the flashcards, and it was I don't know, $5 or $6 for that. And then it was or buy the whole set. I think it was $19.99 or whatever. And I was like, you know what, man?
If you're in it for the long haul,
I'm going to use it. Yeah, because it's a very useful app.
Okay, so then how much time are you dedicating per day to Chinese? So when you actually use the Chinese, you said you're watching
Mhm.
the video and maybe listening to dialogues a bit. What's your process
Yep.
of going through that look like? And
Yeah,
like,
so
do you start with the dialogue or start with the lesson? I'm curious.
yeah, well, it's just wherever I left off. Because sometimes
But like if you start a new lesson, for example, say you start lesson one now, whatever, would you listen to the English explanation first, or would you go straight to the dialogue?
yeah, no, I listen to English explanation first. And the reason I do that is just to kind of get into it, and kind of have a sense of what I'm looking for as I'm going forward with it.
Mm.
Um, so basically, I'll go in whatever lesson I'm on, I'll start, and so I'll watch that video. Usually they're between 3 and 4 minutes, but afterwards she has an audio review. And the audio reviews will be, I mean, anywhere 6 to 10, maybe 12 minutes, and
What
it'll
was the
be
audio review?
it's her hammering home the words. She'll say bread, and it'll give you time, and then she'll repeat
Bao.
it in Chinese. Yeah, and then it'll be say I speak a little bit of Chinese, so well,我会说一点中文. I can speak a little bit of Chinese, and then she'll say it. So that's a good way, and that's a good way to test your ability to produce it versus
Mm,
just passive recognition.
okay. Yeah.
But then, so
But I
after
do think
that,
passive recognition is more important at the start because
no, I agree.
you don't necessarily need to be able to say every word you understand. And if especially if you're talking about basics like this, if you just focus entirely on input, all of these stuff that we're talking about now is so common that you're just going to probably heard it hundreds, if not thousands of times the more exposure you get, and
Right.
you're not gonna be able to not say it. Is when you
Yeah.
like I defy anyone to listen to Chinese for 10,000 hours and not be able to say "hua" or "ni" or something like that
Right.
because it's just
Right.
you'd have
Right.
heard it like so many times.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you said you wanted to use Link but you're struggling to find content to immerse in, I was wondering if maybe it would be worth not going so much for the audio review and you could try and putting loads of these street interviews into Link and just kind of using her content in conjunction with Link and just plowing through like loads of different sources. And then you can like make a playlist of the dialogues and use that for extra immersion when you're walking about and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I think that would probably, and that's honestly probably what I'm going to do. Because I think that's, the best, that'd probably be the best way to it. Because those street interviews are awesome. Um, well, all right. So after just to go through after the audio review,
Mm.
it goes into basically almost like a quiz, and um, it'll give you a sentence, for example, and she'll say the sentence aloud, and then you mark which tone it is. So it's training you on the tones,
Ah.
which for
Like
the
the tone of
most
each
part
character
isn't.
in the thing, in the sentence.
Yeah. So if it's like
That's probably quite
我会
useful.
说一点中文, it'll be, you pick the tone for each,
Mm.
word. And then
I don't want to try now because
uh
I'll probably get it wrong.
yeah, oh yeah, no, it's tones are a mess, man, and I fully understand why they're important, but they are an absolute mess. Um and then it depends, but there's several lessons um between those street interview things. It may be a couple of lessons, so but it usually does a good job of hitting every topic, you know, uh, that you've studied in between there. So, but I really like that system. But I think doing that with the street interviews, importing that into Link, and using the transcription that's provided probably be the best case scenario because you can listen to it just on repeat, not having to worry about
Mm.
starting the video over, back, and all that stuff.
Just this is similar to that. Have you ever used Ollie's Uncovered courses? Ollie Richards, I'm talking about here. He has Spanish Uncovered, Italian Uncovered, loads of
Mm-hmm.
Uncovered, which is course for beginners, and he has basically split into 20 chapters. It follows the story of the man in the hat, and they go around. It was traveling on different places in Spain, going to actual real places. You could understand it quite relatively well early on, especially in Spanish. It helps because it has a lot of cognates. Um, but the story was really well written in the way that it was interesting at a very good level for someone who's just started.
Yeah.
But when I went into the course, he had like a 10-minute video explaining all the cognates, a 10-minute video explaining the vocabulary, a 10-minute or 20-minute video sometimes explaining the grammar, another video, 10-minute video explaining the pronunciation. If I watched all of those into the exercise sheets, I'd be spending 2 hours and getting very little exposure. So
Right.
I thought most of it was probably, to be honest, a waste of time. And what ended up, not all of it. I mean, because, but for me, I find it much better using my time to just focus on my comprehension and just take it as those and just import the story into
Yeah.
a link. Because the story was really well written. I don't need to worry about cognates and vocabulary videos. I just read it in link and find out the words.
Right.
I click on the words I can't figure out. That saves me 20 minutes there.
Yeah.
Pronunciation. I'm not going to speak yet. Just listen a lot. That's fine. I'll worry about that later. And
Yeah.
that kind of saved a lot of time that way. So I thought it worked really well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good that's a good idea, honestly. Because you want to maximize the amount of time that you
Spending with the
have.
language. I don't want to be spending my whole time listening to Ollie talk about
Yeah.
Spanish and English because I don't feel that's as useful.
Yeah.
But I think it's helpful in small amounts, which I kind of feel like if I was giving constructive criticism on the course, I'd say keep those other videos there for the ones they want, but the grammar videos are way too long. And he did lots of pauses and questions, and I know people like that sort of thing, so that's why he did it.
Yeah.
But if he just did a really concise version, did like a 5-minute video, I could just watch it and then carry on with my immersion, which I would have found much more useful. But
the more that I was gonna say, the more that I think about it though, the less that I have grammar explained to me, the more that I kind of just accept it for what it is versus questioning it, which also saves time.
Yeah.
It's just the way that it is. Like the sentence that I always give an example for is a Japanese sentence that I learned, which was just when I was studying Japanese, which was koen ni. Let's see, hold on, let's see. So koen ni watashi no musuko wa kare mo inu ikimasu. So it's something like that, and basically it means my son walked to the park with his dog, which obviously the grammar, but I just accepted it for what it was, because what you're actually saying is park in my son, his dog with goes. But instead of having the Tai Kim's Guide to Grammar and having to figure out why it was, I just realized, okay, so if you're going here, the place is first, then this, and it naturally kind of just fit into place for me.
I mean, grammar rules are incredibly inconsistent because it's like that because people just tend to say it that way, and that's how it's just stuck and changed over the past however many thousands of years.
Right.
So people use grammar to try and explain the chaos that is language, and then it's kind of doesn't fit perfectly because there's loads of exceptions because people just say it that way because that's just the way they say it. I think sometimes it can confuse it, but I think for certain things, if I read a sentence and understand it, I wouldn't necessarily need any grammar explanations. But if I read it and there's, say, a particle in there I don't know how it's used. Let's say if you take the ba particle in Chinese or the bei one. So it's I'm not going to explain it now because I don't want to go into off that. But if you don't know how to use those two particles or words, and it's getting in the way of your comprehension of the text, then just watching a short video on explaining how these things work can go, oh, okay, so that means this sentence means this, and then it can help you. But sometimes if you go too heavy, I think it gets more in the way than help.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I know one thing I get tripped up on in Chinese just when I run into it is I've seen le as a particle for past tense, but then I've also seen it used in other instances where it's not, it does something else.
It can also indicate a change in situation. So it's not necessarily past tense, it's just a change from before. Or sometimes this is something that I kind of just, like you said, I don't really understand why, but it's something I've just accepted. So if you're a Chinese speaker, then let me know. But I think sometimes it almost seems to add like intent, or I don't know, say add more of a feeling to it. So if you watch an anime, they won't go "Wah shani," which is "I will kill you." They go "Wah shalani," and I don't know why they add the "le" at the end. But I've heard that phrase in kung fu films in anime, and I'm just like, "Wah shalani." I don't really understand why it's got a "le" on the end, but it seems to. It adds a nice ring to it. It makes it sound more powerful somehow, or more of a No, I'm really serious about this, and I'm not kidding.
Right.
I don't really know if that's how the grammar explains it, or if that's why it's like that. But that's the way it kind of feels. And I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. Right? I know what it means. I
Right.
just won't look it up.
Yeah, I know that they're very. I know that. Well, I'll learn this from Yo-Yo Chinese, but I know that they're very big into kind of that sing-songy, like making things sound right. Because I know that they talk about how they don't use sure all the time, but like for example, if you say "wo hun hao," it doesn't actually mean I'm very very great. Like it's like hunt is almost there as like just a placeholder, so it's not just "wo hao." Like
Mhm.
it's like it because if you're actually saying that you're like really something, I can't remember what it was. I think that's when you used "le." I think it was. I can't remember the word for like really. It was like "da" or something, but it would be like "woda." Well, it's not "duh" because that's possessive, but like
So you say da big
"ta." It was would be yeah,
da.
yeah. So "woda
Huh?
how le" or something like that.
Wait. Okay. Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
as you can see, I have a ton of stuff that I've got to get taken care of before we speak in
Okay.
Mandarin.
Um.
But
Yeah. And
yo,
Chinese are very particular about, like you said, the sound. So there's lots of words that you have like a two character and a one character version of the word. So if say I'm not going to say the Chinese now, but if you say to save money, there's a two character word for save and there's a one character word for save. Now Chinese like two 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 in terms of the rhythm of the sentence. So you can say if you put the second character as money, you wouldn't use the two character version of the word. You'd use the one character because it's save money. Put that together as thing. But then in something else, if it was two characters, then you might use the two character version. So it's all about two 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 two. And Chinese really
gotcha.
like the rhythm. It makes it sound better. Apparently, at least that's what the teacher said here at NTNU. Which is
Yeah,
so try and get a little bit back on topic.
yeah.
Um, so you're doing that with your Chinese, and that's probably coming up with most of your active time. Are you immersing at all outside of that? I know YouTube's probably going to be hard to find. I think you can find it. You just if you use simplified Chinese characters to search for something instead of traditional. I'm
Yeah.
guessing, I haven't tried this myself. You should probably return some results from mainland China because that's what they use there. But also, I guess Netflix is. Do you have Netflix? Is also a goldmine for loads of TV shows and stuff you can watch with subtitles. You could pair it with some. Wait, do you know Subadub?
Sub a dub. Where you rip the subtitles out and it
Mm.
makes the flashcards that you're talking about?
No, no, sorry. What did I say? No. That's Subs to SRS. Let me show my screen.
I
Actually,
literally thought that was called. I think I've heard that term before. I may just be
let
confusing them.
me. Uh,
I do have Netflix though.
I'm just logging. I'll share my screen in a second. I'm just logging in first. 'Cause I don't want people to see my details and
Info.
whatnot.
Yeah.
So if I just click on a random, just find a random show. Oh, this one's actually from mainland China that I was watching recently. Just so when I share screen now, what's going to happen is it's probably going to show up as a black screen, but you should be able to see the subtitles. So
Oh yeah.
you can see. Oh no, a drop shot. Okay, so there's a thing called Subword up here. Can you see that on my screen?
Yeah.
Right. And what it comes up with is you get these second subtitles here. That you can, so these are the ones in Netflix down here. You can you've got off, you've got traditional Chinese, and you've got English. You've got the same options up here, so you can select it in traditional Chinese like that. And the good thing about Subword Dub is you can copy and paste subtitles from here. But you can actually copy that and say paste it into an Anki card. You can download it as an SRT file. If you wanted to say import it into a link, you could do that as well.
Hmm.
Or if you've got one of these pop-up dictionaries, now it's a selectable. You can just hover your mouse above it and it tells you what the thing is. So if you're watching
Gotcha.
Netflix and you go, oh, you said something. This is when I'm. There you go. You can just put your, and this is the Bay particle I talked about before. You can just put your mouse
Hey.
over it and see what it is. And if you're watching TV shows and you just want to look something up on the file, this is really useful. And with CC videos, this is an advert for Nintendo Switch. I mean, 2 seconds. So you can see you've got CC subtitles here, and the good thing about CC subtitles is you can do the same thing on YouTube. You can look up words like this, which is really cool. And
Yeah.
also, if you open up the transcript, on the right, you can look up stuff on this side as well if you wanted to. So that's for like just general immersion. That's quite
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, that's super super cool. I need to get some some extent. The problem, and I need to change this, but um, I don't use my computer a lot for learning. Most of my learning comes from like my phone, and even when I'm watching YouTube, most of the time it's through like my PlayStation on the TV. But I need to change that because I think that there's a lot more useful stuff just with like add-ons like that on the computer, so you can just hover over stuff and be good to go. I do have something. What is this thing called?
I mean, maybe it's a good
Uh,
idea to mix up both.
Prepara Chinese pop-up dictionary.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different. It's basically the same as what I use, just a
Okay.
different one. I think they basically do the same thing.
Yeah.
I think
So
Matt. I'm talking Matt from Matt versus Japan. If people don't know, I think Matt uses Para.
yeah, I had a buddy who recommended that. I got it. So I need to do that, and that's one of those things where I just need to get a little bit more into it. I'll start looking on Netflix. I mean, because I have a laptop, dude. I could literally lay on my couch. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's not like I have to be propped up and stuff. But um,
I think loads of people recommended a TV show from quite a famous show from mainland China called Meteor Garden. That's quite new, and
mhm.
apparently it's I don't know if you like it's a lot of it's romantic based off some manga I think originally, but I don't know if it's a Japanese anyway. Meteor Garden apparently that's quite good and not too complicated, and there's because it's romance. I don't know if you like that sort of thing. If not, then probably don't watch it. But the vocab's normally not that complicated because it's normally quite everyday situations. You know, there's nothing supernatural in there. Like
Yeah,
if you watch like Journey to the West and Sun Wukong and all that stuff, it's like
right.
all sorts of mythical creatures and loads of Buddhism words, and it gets quite confusing quite quickly. But stuff like that
Yeah,
tends to be okay.
yeah. That's where I would run into problems when I was doing Japanese. Is so much of the anime is like you know mech terminology and stuff like that. So and it wasn't really uh, anything that I would consider something I needed.
Mm. One of them, but I guess if those stuff that you're looking at is like I'm watching Fairy Tale at the moment in Chinese because I felt like it, and there's loads of like words like magic and things like that, and then
Hmm.
you know you'd be surprised sometimes how stuff come into useful, like how words come into useful. Like I think I was speaking to one of my friends and I learned the word magic, which is don't know the tones. It's morphat, I think, and I heard one of my friends say something sarcastically. Oh yeah, it's just magic, you know. So you don't like that you would in English, and you don't really know how the words come into play in like ways you wouldn't expect. So every word you learn is a good word, and I think enjoying it's the most important thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's what when I was talking to my buddy from Japan, he was talking about how because I told him I said it's hard to get into immersion. Um, I said it's really hard to get over that thing where you're immersing and you don't know what they're saying because it's you're just now getting into it. And he said, well,
Mm.
he said because we went to school together, and he was like, we had math class together. How much of that stuff do you remember? And I said, well, none. And he said, and were you having fun when it was happening? And I said, nope. And he said, exactly. You got to have fun while you're doing it. That's good, because everybody remember. I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure that schooling is a little bit different in the UK and stuff, but like everybody here remembers specific like gym days when we had this giant, um, almost like parachute. I don't even know what it was, but like you remember it vividly because it was fun. Everybody remembers like in science class. I don't know if they did this in the UK. Like over here, we have to dissect frogs
Mm.
at some
That's
point.
I wouldn't like that very much, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. But it's something that we had to do, and everybody remembers that just because it was something so specific.
Mm.
And it was like an activity, and that's always what he's talking about. It's just, not that it was fun per se as much as it stood out. It wasn't just
Mm.
someone drilling something into your head
Yeah.
and saying you have to learn this or else.
Well, like in my science class, my teacher was doing an experiment with methane bubbles, showing the how combustible they are. He literally put loads on his head and went, and a big fireball went off his head like that, and there was
Whoa.
a big black mark in the ceiling at the top of the classroom after. I was like, oh, whoops, probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But this is quite interesting with I'm gonna try not let's get too off topic. But when I was did a video with a guy called Chili Lucas, the Cantonese guy, a while ago, we did a video speaking Cantonese, and some of the mistakes that I made, like for example, I went to say my favorite food is Indian food, which in Cantonese would be Ojo Jungi Choi Hai Yando Choi. And this is another thing where tones are important. Instead of yanda, it's like I forgot what the numbers are, but it's like kind of middle and then low. But I said high and then low. So instead of yanda, I said yamda, and that means my favorite food is vagina. So it was, you know, and but I never forgot those two words after because I was like had an embarrassing memory attached to it that was quite memorable.
Right.
So yeah, I have to
Wow.
make any way to make it memorable is obviously a good thing and helps you stick in your head.
Yeah.
Even if it's an embarrassing,
yeah.
embarrassing story.
That's what scares me about Chinese. I mean, I guess like hypothetically they would probably know via context sometimes, but like
oh yeah, they just started laughing and corrected me.
But
it was my mate, so I would think don't worry about it too much.
Yeah. That's what Chinese freaks me out with the tones, man. Like just because of how I mean like when you're listening, and I guess it's just because we're not native or whatever. I'm sure you can hear it way better than me, but like I'm listening and I'm like they're not speaking with a tone. Like it sounds like they're just saying words. Like it doesn't sound like even when I hear somebody say like even when I hear somebody say, you know, hello, it just sounds like they're just saying just boom, like no intonation or anything. But I guess they are.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna pretend I've mastered the Mandarin tones because I haven't. Obviously, anyone who watches my videos will know that. But you know, I'm slowly getting used to it. And so I think it's an ongoing process that I'm still trying to, you know, and I'm more comfortable than I was, say 2 months ago, and I'm sure in another 2 months I'll be more comfortable than I am now. But there's still a long way to go. So I think it's just, you know, if you're accepting that this is going to take a long time, and yeah.
Now, do you use for Chinese? Are all of the cards that you have just specifically cards that you've made, or did you use like a frequency list or anything?
An Anki?
Yeah.
I can show you my Anki if you want.
Because I always wondered, like, I know that immersion is important, but I always wondered too, like, how good would it be to just go ahead and burn through like even 500 or 600 of the most frequently used words just to have a base vocabulary, so when you're watching, you know, whatever you're immersing with, that you could have some sort of, you know, hearing something.
Yeah, I mean these two, remembering the Hanzi 1 and remembering the Hanzi 2, were pre-made decks. I couldn't be bothered to copy 3,000 characters from a book into a deck.
Right.
I just downloaded the pre-made ones for these. Jian 1, Propomorpho, you probably ignore that. I made myself. This I made myself. These are sentence banks from TV shows I made myself. And this is my sentence deck. With quite a nerdy name. It's over 9,000, which is a reference from an anime that I watched when I was younger, which you may or may not know.
Yeah.
It's from Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen.
But in these are all just cards I made, so you know. Normally I have it both ways, audio to text and audio to whatever, and then I just at the moment it's still doing a mixture between bilingual and monolingual stuff. I haven't really experimented with the monolingual transition much, but I've made a few cards monolingual. If I understand that, I just throw a definition in instead of the bilingual one, but I'm not stressing over it too much.
Right.
But yeah, so like these were pre-installed and the rest are just stuff I did myself. But again, I don't use Anki that much, relatively speaking. I use it very little.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's you know,
because I don't like it. It's not fun.
Right. I actually do. I know. There's been a lot of hate towards it lately, but I actually find a lot more enjoyment. I think just overall with the way the app looks and stuff. With I really like Memorize, man. I think it's a fun flashcard system if that exists. Like, and I think it's the repetition. See, I get the idea of spaced repetition, but I like that it's not just here's the card. All right, we're gonna show it to you tomorrow. Like, I like that you have like that first initial set where you see it a bunch to get it in your mind, and then it kind of starts that SRS process.
Yeah, but I think that's the reason why like your own cards are better, because say if you're watching a TV show and you take a sentence from the TV show, grab the audio from the TV show, And I use a program called ShareX to pull the audio out really quickly, and I'll leave a link in the description how to use that, which is made by Matt versus Japan. I can also send it to you if you're interested.
Yeah.
You basically copy the audio and sentence over, and then I already have seen it in the context of the TV show already, so it's not like it's completely alien to me when I'm repping it for the first time. Whereas if it's a pre-made set, it is. So I feel like that's more tangible, and
That's true.
because it was from stuff that you were watching yourself and are interested in, you're more likely to see that word again.
Right. Yeah, but the only decks really that Memorize would have that would be, because most of them are just single word flashcards, but the ones that are produced by Memorize themselves, they actually have like sentences. And I don't know if you've messed with them a lot, but like
I've never really used Memorize before, so I don't know.
they'll have like several words, and then it'll get into like basic sentences and structure, and they'll have like native speakers like they'll quiz you on that. Like they'll have the native speaker say something, and you'll click whatever they're saying or whatever. But like anybody else who's made like a deck that you use that's pre-made is 99.9% of the time it's just a single word out of context.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't like those. But I mean, I know sometimes you do get good pre-made ones. I think like people have made like a core 1K deck with like full of sentences that you can take and or like organize them from HSK and have like in the context of sentences or like example sentences online, which seems useful. It's just
There's a lot more of an attachment.
1K, yeah. Well, because sometimes this core 1K, I've never used them that much because I kind of figure if you listen and read that much, the core 1K is the core 1K. You're gonna see and hear them a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I know there's always one on Anki, which is like 10,000 sentences in a +1 manner, where it's, you'll use the words, and like each sentence will get a little bit harder. And then of course there's I know.jp as well, has Chinese, like it was made for Japanese, I think, but they have a Chinese course.
I know.jp?
Yeah, and it's
what was it? What is it?
I know.jp. It's like it's like flashcards, but it'll have like I actually downloaded it when I was studying Japanese, but they'll have like Chinese cards too, and it'll just be like the word, and it'll quiz you on what the word is, but then after you guess the word or do whatever, it'll have like with it used in sentences, like in two different sentences, just so you can see the context of how the sentence works, which is it's pretty cool. It's a little bit costly. It's like, I think it's $40 every 3 months. Like it's pretty crazy, but
that's quite a lot. Yeah.
Whoa.
Echo.
Whoa, why's my headphones not working?
Just not say anything. Hello?
All right, there we go.
Okay. I was like, wait, why do I hear myself? Okay.
I twisted the headphone jack in it, like, I don't know.
No worries. So going back to immersion, then have you done anything so far that you're looking to get more into, and that sort of initial feeling of crap, I don't understand anything. Do you think that's getting in the way of your enjoyment? So I think when immersing, it's best not to focus on what you're learning. It's best to focus on, can you enjoy this program or not? And if you can enjoy it, then great. If you can't, then try something else. So do you find that the lack of vocabulary and understanding is getting in the way of your enjoyment of the show, or do you think you can still enjoy it?
I think I can get through it. I do think that does have a little bit to do with it, but I think it's more of the idea, even though it shouldn't be, is so foreign. I actually watched one of Matt versus Japan's Q&As earlier today, where somebody asked about how he went through, and he said from the very beginning he never had an issue with doing that because he trusted the system. He trusted that if he did the immersion, that it would naturally take place. And I still think I'm in a weird spot where, even though I've seen that it works with many people, it's still hard for me to buy in, even though I do believe it, if that makes any sense. Like, it's hard for me to do that.
Well, I think if that's all you did, if all you did was watch TV, it's going to take you a very long time if eventually doing it. I think you have to combine it with some sort of active study, whether it's Link or Anki or whatever. I think it's the two combined together, because you study something in Link, you see it in your immersion, And the immersion helps keep it fresh, or you hear something in your immersion, and then when you study it a little later, you go, oh, that word sounds really familiar. So
Yeah.
the two together, I think if you just immersed, you maybe eventually, but it'll be super slow. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah. And that's why I was thinking, even if I just tried to find a sentence deck that capitalized on, X amount of words just to get some sort of a base vocabulary. I mean, I have a very basic. I know simple words. I know like, and I know to eat and drink, and some of the very very basic stuff. Like, and there's some even stuff that I couldn't tell you right now that I would recognize if I. There's a lot of different foods that I'll recognize if I heard it. I may not be able to replicate it right now, but I'm not overly worried about that. But if I just need to get just a little bit more, I think, so I can start hearing some of that stuff to be able to, because that way then I can start going, okay, well, here's the sentence. I recognize 3 of the 4 words, so now I just have to use that, and then it just starts building from there.
The more you have it, the easier it is to learn stuff from context. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've tried before and it wasn't very fun then, basically.
Yes.
And you kind of don't believe it, I think. What were you watching? Remember?
Just random, like I watched several YouTube videos. I watched like I really like the idea of like space exploration and stuff, which is probably not the best thing, but I was like, you know what, it's some sort of like immersion. So I would watch like just different.
Complicated for a beginner in Chinese.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would understand it.
Well, see, and that's kind of the thing too, is like I was kind of in a point of immersion just to say I was immersing versus helpful stuff. Like I would literally just do stuff just so I could say I had this audio on X amount of hours a day, whether or not I had any clue what was going on. So I think just I need to recalculate that strategy.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I guess I think in the beginning, like the attention and focus is probably, I mean, quality and quantity of both. And obviously, the higher you have of both, the quicker you're going to learn. But I'd say if you only did an hour of day watching TV, but you were actually kind of focused and concentrated on it and trying to understand it, it's better than having 5 hours of just in the background that's just noise.
Yeah.
So I'd say start off with maybe a smaller amount, and then you can always try and add on more later, and try and find stuff that you can enjoy and focusing on. So when I was learning Cantonese, a lot of the stuff I watched at an early stage were kung fu films, because if I don't understand what they're saying, I can watch them fight.
Yeah.
And watch the fight scenes and stuff.
Yeah, you can enjoy it.
With Mandarin, when I was a beginner, I watched a lot of One Piece, the anime One Piece, in Chinese, stuff like that, because if I don't understand it, it doesn't really get in the way of my enjoyment. I know the plot because I've watched it before, and I can watch them fighting and stuff.
Right.
But
is there a website for, like, I know that there's like Animelon for Japanese. Is there a website like that for Chinese, like anime dubbed in Chinese?
There is, but there's no it's not built for language learners. It's built for Chinese people who want to stream dodgily stuff off the internet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they do exist. It's just I've been watching a few of them. I've watched a few on Netflix. The Taiwanese Netflix has stuff like Death Note and things, which is pretty good.
Cool. And if not, I was thinking about getting a VPN too. That way I could have more of a selection of the material.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it's like in the States and the UK one. They had a lot of, again, I've only looked at mostly Taiwanese shows, but there's a lot of Taiwanese shows available in the UK, and I think a lot of Chinese shows as well. So I'm guessing it'd be the same in the States. You've probably got a bigger population of Chinese in the UK. I don't know. I mean, I know there's not a small amount in America.
Right.
So I'd guess it'd be some stuff.
You know what I just realized? Any newer wrestling show on WWE Network, they have the alternative commentary for any commentary it was recorded in. And they record in Chinese. So like probably shows for the past 3 or 4 years, I could watch any of them in Chinese.
Yeah.
And I would love that.
And they'd probably be describing what's going on as well.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, when he's done the super slam, and then you can see the guy going down, and
Yeah. I'm going to do that, actually. I think I might do that.
That's quite a good idea.
just like maybe watch a show just with some sort of commentary in Chinese just to see how it is, because I would still enjoy the show,
Mm.
but I would be hearing that commentary as well.
Yeah, and then I think still try and put a bit of effort in trying to listen to what they say, because in that I've done this before. When this was when I was learning Spanish, I think one of my friends sent me a football game, and by accident the stream just was in the commentary was in Spanish, and sometimes you can just, oh, I don't understand this. This just zone it out and just focus on the football.
Right.
That's
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I
but I
need to.
think yeah, you just a bit of conscious effort helps. And obviously, the more words you know, the easier it is to focus in. So I think that early
Yeah.
stage is really hard. And what I did with Cantonese, because I was this was my first time learning a foreign language, I was quite new to the whole thing. I was just watching loads of Hong Kong dramas with English subtitles because I just wanted to see more about the culture and stuff like that. Then after about, I can't remember, it was maybe about 3 or 4 months in, I had watched maybe like 10 or 11 dramas or something like that with English subtitles. And then when I wanted to go, okay, well, I'm going to try and like start watching stuff without the subtitles now, I just rewatched the ones I'd already watched because I know the plot. And again,
Yeah.
some of them were kung fu ones and stuff like that. That was like, it's called A Fist Within Four Walls, which I think there's a Mandarin dub from, which is very entertaining and not too complicated. So I rewatched that, and there's lots of action scenes, and I already know the plot. So when you're rewatching it in Cantonese, it's a lot easier to understand because I've already watched it once with English subs. So maybe if that's something you're really struggling with, you could try that route as well. Um, obviously the danger with that path is that you never wean yourself off and always watch stuff with English subs. So as long as you say, I'm going to do it for a few months, and then after this point, I'm going to kick the subs away. I can see
Yeah.
that as being a quite useful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely need to do, and I think too, maybe when I'm doing it, like just say, all right, set a max, right? Say I'm gonna watch this show, and the first 20 things I don't understand, I'll write down, and then after that, I'm just gonna enjoy the show.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
then like that way, I'm not spending the entire time writing stuff down. Like, all right, cool, there, I hit my 20 or 25, whatever, and then just watch it, and then I'll learn those words, and then next time I watch through it, maybe I'll
mm.
understand those words in context or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like as well that so the thing I just showed you was Server Dub on Netflix. Is you can literally pause it, hover your mouse above, and then unpause it at the start because the words you're looking up are quite common. You'll probably see the same word again in a few sentences. I feel like that's quite a good way
Yeah,
because that I feel like that makes it more fun because it's making it more interactive and it's making it feel like, hey, I looked up that word and I've already seen it again. It makes it more fun that way. Gives you
yeah,
more of a sense of progression, which is quite fun.
right. Yeah, and that's definitely any kind of like being able to see progress like that is definitely
Mm.
a huge just
Just
confidence booster.
the 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 thing that's like more disheartening than anything else is if you go, oh, I've been doing this for 3 months, I've spent hours watching this stuff, I still understand fucking nothing. Why is it still like this? So yeah, anything that helps you see progress is good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just filling up my bottle.
No, you're good.
I'm not doing anything weird. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't
Also,
know, man.
I know we've been going for quite a long time. I've got to get to class soon, so I want to try and wrap this up a little bit. So,
Sure.
um, what's your plan going forward? And if you, I don't know if you're big on goal setting. Have you got any goal like other than say you want to have a conversation at the end of the year? Do you have stuff like I want to read this by the end of the month. I want to go through this resource by the end of this month. I want to go through a dialogue a day and spend an hour, blah blah blah, a day doing this specific thing. I don't know if you do goals like that.
Right.
Have you got any goals in the immediate future? And what's your general plan, like quite briefly, and then
Right.
we'll
Yeah,
shoot off the
so
uni.
really and truly my main goals going forward are just more about time
Mm,
spent. Just until I get a little bit further into it. I don't really have any specific things that I want to read or even watch, just based on still trying to find some um, content, that's enjoyable, whether it be movies or whatever. My main goal is to be immersed, at least an hour a day. And I don't mean passive listening. I mean, if I'm passive listening, whatever, that's just bonus. I don't even know if it really does anything, but whatever.
Yeah.
As far as active sitting there paying attention, watching, but actively concentrating on what they're saying, at least an hour a day, whether it be, trying to watch wrestling. I think that might honestly be the best case scenario right now, just because it's readily available. And I love, as I mentioned before the stream or before you started recording or whatever, like how much I love wrestling. Or maybe try to find some China, because like I get so burnt out watching WWE with the way that stuff goes. But maybe try to find some Chinese wrestling promotions or something. I know there's a couple, but that might be the best route. And then again, I mean, YouTube is my friend, so I need to just look up best Mandarin Chinese movies or best anything like that, just to get into into something. So
I think sometimes I always seem to Google stuff and end up on Fluent News blog with like loads of book recommendations and TV shows and stuff. So they seem to have quite good lists of things as well. Yeah.
I need to, and then I just reach out to people who speak Mandarin. I know Lindy speaks Mandarin. I could ask her.
Lindy.
Yeah.
Oh, Lindy. Lindy.
Botes.
Boats.
Boats.
I'm not familiar with. I don't actually watch that much stuff from the polyglot community. Probably should watch more, but
yeah, she's cool. She speaks Mandarin, Japanese.
What are the levels like? I guess it's hard to tell if you don't speak Mandarin or Japanese.
Well, I know that she's a teacher she teaches Japanese and Chinese. It blew my mind when I found out that she was not a native English speaker. Like, it blew my mind. But I know that she probably has.
I've met a lot of people from South Africa that basically sound like some of my colleagues at work are from South Africa, and I work for a gases company called Lindy Gases, and they're talking about I work as a chemical engineer, so we're talking about stuff that I struggle to understand in English, and they're just like, smiling and laughing, and I'm just like, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Your English is good.
Yeah, man. I guess it's just for us as English speakers, man. Like, we're almost trained to like learning a language, whatever. Everybody speaks English, but it's like every other culture on the planet is like, oh no, we learned English, it's cool, which almost enables us to be monolingual.
So you're going to go for more of the pro wrestling route for automation. You said you would. Did you say you were going to try and import any of the Yo-Yo Chinese things into Link?
Yeah, I do want to do that. I'll probably try to do that in the next day or so as well. I think tonight I'm going to renew my Link thing and just try to see. Surely there's some kind of pre-made story on there that's okay to get into, just to just get a little bit of something. But like I said, I feel like the mini stories are whatever, but like I feel like they're just written weird sometimes, and like I don't know, man. They're okay, but it's not what I want to learn.
If you read them in English, it sounds kind of really strange.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Dave gets up at 7 every day. Dave goes to the restaurant. Dave does this. Dave does that. I'm just like, huh?
Yeah.
This is, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe as well. I mean, when I was, I think it was like the Teach Yourself or something course and just go through the dialogues and that again. It's not particularly interesting, but when you're going through in that first month, the fact that you're discovering a lot about the language and feel like you're progressing quickly is enough to make it fun in itself. And then after that, you start going, okay, well, this is boring. I want to find actually interesting content to consume.
Right. I wish that I know Steve had said that he had reached out to Assimil about selling Assimil through Link as lessons, and that would be awesome, just for the dialogue and audio.
I know we mentioned Ollie Richards before as well. Can't remember if it was before the stream or not. Anyway, he has conversations in Chinese as well, and I feel like I did theirs for Spanish. I feel like if you've just finished a beginner's course, so like month 1 you do like an Assimil. Month 2 you could go through some like conversations, or month 3 depending on what your timeline is, and they're a little bit above that. I did the conversations for Spanish. I think they're compared to a native speaker, they're still quite slow. I know he's marketed it as listening material. There's like beginner's material that's faster than that, but then native speakers' speed is like here. So I still think there's a big. I think it's a lot slower than native material, but it's still good for building up vocabulary.
Yeah.
So maybe that's also some, but they're expensive as well, and you can probably find genuine stuff that's maybe more interesting for free on YouTube. It depends how willing you are to put the time. But if you want to follow a simple story across a few chapters, then that's also an option.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll check it out. I have I have short stories in Russian and Spanish.
Oh no, this wasn't short stories. This was conversations.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, but like I like the way
Yeah, I think their short
some of
stories are
this
a lot
stuff
better
is.
value for money. I think his conversations is like $97, which I'm just like,
Whoa.
I think my mum got it me for Christmas for the Spanish one. So I was like, yeah, okay, thanks. But I bought the one in Cantonese, which is, in my opinion, a lot better than the ones for other languages because it follows a different structure. Because they're literally just full speed conversations. They tell two people talk about this topic, record a 3-minute conversation about it full speed, and then transcribe it. And for me, that was like blew my mind because of the problem between the spoken and written divide we talked about before the stream. I won't go into it now.
Right.
But I was like, this is like the holy grail. Like, why didn't I have this before? The Cantonese one's really good. I wish he went on more similar route and did more natural paced speech for the other ones, but he didn't slow down.
Yeah. See, I wish that Link, and I know that, it just depending on how much money Steve wants to pay out, but I wish that he would just contact native speakers and be like, hey, here's $10, speak for 5 minutes about movies, or, and then transcribe it. That way it's more of what a natural conversation is versus reading something.
Have you ever thought about getting anything transcribed yourself? Because before, say I had a 5-minute video or something that looks super interesting with no transcript, you can go onto like Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and just pay someone like, some of it's really cheap, like $5 to transcribe up to 15 minutes of audio. I found one, and then you can get like transcript for this whole video and just go through that. So a lot of what stuff I was watching, some of my friends here in Taipei, we do work for an organization called Anonymous with the Voice System. We basically do street interviews with people about veganism, like, why do you eat meat? Is this your first time seeing like slaughterhouse footage? Blah, 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 blah. And you do like, it's about something I'm passionate about, and it's like genuine, real Chinese, because it's doing interviews on the street. I took a quarter of an hour video from their YouTube channel, got it transcribed for $5, and that's, for me, probably for most people won't like it, but for me, that's like the perfect material, because then I can use a lot of the same questions and stuff when I'm speaking to people on the streets in Taipei about these things. So for me, it was like, this is really, and I think Fiverr is brilliant as well. Maybe worth checking out.
That's a good idea. I wonder. Yeah, man. I could do that for like even like the easy Chinese. Like, I'm sure there's easy Chinese videos. I'm talking about, like the easy languages videos.
They do. I think you can get the transcripts on Patreon though for cheaper, probably.
Yeah, I wonder if they do. I know that they had them for French. I got them. Because they from where they hard sub them, they don't have and I guess they want people to subscribe to their Patreon and stuff, but that'd probably be a good idea too.
Take the subs off. If they put the subs both in the CC so you can toggle between the two, that'd be like perfect, but then no one would pay for the Patreon, so yeah,
that's, I don't know, I might do that, see if I know they have Patreon for like 8 or 10 of those languages. I don't know if Chinese was one, but I'm gonna check it out because I do like those videos. Not even because they're interesting, but I do have fun watching them. Yeah, and I think it's because it's short, simple.
You see real people's opinions about genuine topics as well. I find it quite interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so, any closing words or anything else you want to mention?
Nah, man. Hopefully doing some immersion, will kind of help. And getting into the right immersion. And I think just trusting kind of the process of your brain's natural ability to unlock language. Your brain is designed to piece together patterns. And I mean, I think just kind of trusting that process will help a lot. So that's just kind of my goal.
Good luck. 加油.
So Appreciate it.
Did you want to set a date for or like a roughly month, like just not a set date, but just like pick a month roughly for if you wanted to do the conversation, so I have more
Yeah,
of an idea in my head of where.
yeah, and that'll keep me motivated as well, man.
I don't know if you're thinking at the back end, like, or like if you're thinking more like June, August, or July, August, or if you're thinking more like September, December. Uh,
Let's see. Well, we could do.
and it's obviously open to change. It doesn't have to be set in stone.
I'm trying to think because I want to be realistic.
Doesn't even have to be 2020.
I would say, I would say we could shoot for somewhere around. You know what? Let's try to see. We'll set a rough tentative date for just 6 months from now. So just June,
Mhm.
July. Just kind of see where I'm at in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because I think with an hour of immersion a day, and then if I'm on Link trying to do a little bit of reading or anything like that, I don't think that there's any reason I wouldn't be able to at least be able to say, "Hey, how are you? The weather's cool today. What's going?" Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's any reason I shouldn't be able to do that.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And hopefully the fact that we're learning different dialects of Mandarin won't confuse us too much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, probably say for July because I'm planning on staying in Taiwan until about July. Then after that, I'm going back to the UK. I'll have a better internet connection and will be a smaller time difference. So maybe July would be better for
Okay.
me.
Cool. Yeah. That sounds good.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for uh, having this conversation with me. And if you're
Yeah.
watching up to this point now, thanks for sticking this far. I hope you find it useful.
Yeah.
Peace out, guys.